So basically, in all of the interviews that we've done so far, basically every offensive player and even some defensive players have mentioned the energy that you've brought to practice and this sort of swagger and just everything seems a little bit more up tempo. How would you kind of describe the way you like to kind of run your offense in terms of practice and energy?
Well, my point of view has always been, again, I'll come back to it, especially with how we practice here. And I'm not sure, I know the rest of the country doesn't always have an appreciation for certain programs that are double repping. And, just the understanding that if the kids give you everything, man, they deserve your best effort. And I really believe for us to go out there and enjoy the practice, you got to have a great amount of care for your teammates, and you got to really be into it. And then on top of that, one of my beliefs has always been, if you lose an edge mentally in double reps, some bad things can happen. Guys get rolled up when they're lazy, and their knees aren't bent. Guys, happen to go the wrong direction, and you get MAs when you're tired. And so it's just been my overall philosophy has been, if we're going to be out here, let's be excited about doing it. We get to play football. There's a lot of things going on out there in the world today. We don't have to play. And so that's kind of just been the approach that I've always taken. And then I really like so far so good on offense. I think most of the guys are embracing that, just attacking the practice and trying to attack the process of getting better every day.
Tim, you're 8 practices in. What are your thoughts on this quarterback battle right now?
Well, I think the top 2 guys have separated themselves, number 1 with experience, number 2 with execution. I don't think necessarily ability is, like we're not 1 and 2 and then there's a big drop-off ability-wise. I think Sean and Levi both have communicated and verbalized, the information very well. We don't read off of cards anymore at practice. They have to take it from me and show an understanding of the system. And so the command has been good. The area that I have concerns is we just got to continue to get repetition and provide opportunities is those shots downfield. Whether it's in the quick game throwing it vertical or in the 5-step game throwing it vertical. And then on top of that, the play actions, the hard ball play actions. We need to be a little more efficient. Obviously, that's not going to be percentage-wise in the 50s or anything, but they can hurt a defense. And I think we got to do a better job with that. I like how we're operating in some of our open formations as far as things that when we can get the ball out of our hand quickly. We can decipher the coverage. We know where we're going. We've been fairly accurate in those situations. We just have to get a little bit better with anything that's down the field and anything that's more than 5 steps progression.
Tim, have Sean or Levi, one of them performed better than the other so far?
Well, right now, Sean's taking the reps. I would still call it the ones because he starts first. Sean and Levi are both doing a good job with protection, and they're doing a good job owning the run game. And there is more on their plate from the standpoint of being the CEO of us being in good run plays. My hat goes off to Bart Miller and Brent Vegan and all the guys that have been involved with the run game here. And quite frankly, I look at the run game, and there's just still some situations I'd like to be in better calls, and they're doing a great job with that. I don't think either of them have separated enough that we would have a sit-down conversation, myself and the head coach and the offensive staff, to say, hey, man, we got to do this because this guy's struggling. It's really been a good battle. I haven't really looked at it from the standpoint until we get through Saturday and the next scrimmage, where we can evaluate those guys when the fur's flying to say, okay, who's 1 or 2?
Hey, Tim, in terms of pace, I know some of the players we talked to have talked about the fact that they've gotten gassed a little bit, just trying to get lined up as fast as you guys are going. Is tempo and pace, is that going to be something you incorporate as part of this offense?
Well, I wouldn't say from a huddle standpoint, but I do take a lot of pride in being a huddle team. We were a little bit like this when we were good at Iowa. In the huddle, we would function fast. And my point is to get the quarterback up to the line of scrimmage, in that window of 17 to 13 seconds. So if he has to change anything, he can. Or, if we wanted to get into running any double calls, he's comfortable getting to the right pitchers. So just, I think, with shifting and motioning and trading, we haven't done a ton of that. But when we do it, you want to apply pressure on the defense. You want to shift quickly. You want to motion fast. And so getting all of our stuff to kind of look the same has been a very, very big point of emphasis for us. And then again, it just comes back to my personality. I think the more stress that we can cause in practice and the more strain, we can learn to eliminate that when it comes to game time.
The receivers in the last couple of years have seemed to be as much a problem with the passing game as anything with the quarterbacks. What have you seen from the receivers?
Well, there's some good depth, number one. Number two, I think it's just us streamlining as many concepts and as many things as possible. And that's what we're exhausting ourselves over trying to learn what the quarterbacks can do really well. Number one. Number two, what things can we streamline so as many times as possible going into an installation meeting, we're able to say, hey, this is the same as. This is the same as. We're breaking here, but it's the same as. And so I think we're becoming more consistent on our spots. I heard a story from Cole Heckendorf. He was with the Colts for a minute, and he had Peyton Manning. And he said, Coach, it was the scariest moment in my professional career. It was a short-lived career. But he remembered distinctly Peyton Manning saying to him, I don't care how you get there, young man. I don't care how you're being coached. But when my eyes come over there, you need to be on your spot. And so that's really the things that we're trying to emphasize is can we get these guys in the right locations on time and to be more consistent with that as far as receivers go. I know Coach Mike, Coach Grant is emphasizing like crazy horizontal and vertical leverage and understanding how that applies in winning routes. And he gave me that note as one of their points of emphasis for the next week. And I thought it was spot on because we've been getting squeezed, on outside routes. We've been getting pushed on inside. You know what I'm saying? So, like, understanding that space and us becoming more consistent from the receivers, the tight ends, and the backs, can most certainly help the quarterbacks.
They say you're going to use the backs more out of the backfield in passing situations?
Yeah, we'll use anybody that can be a weapon run after catch is going to be under heavy consideration to receive the ball. I do believe in getting the back out with check down game, and I also believe in getting them out with five-man protections. And believe it or not, the O-line background in me now is sometimes more comfortable at times protecting with a five-man protection than I am with a six-man and people being confused. In a five-man protection, the quarterback knows where his problem is, and everybody knows quickly where that ball's going based on a certain blitz. That's the idea behind it. But I think we have some guys in that room, running back-wise, that have shown the ability to understand leverage of defenders and catch the ball above average. X is doing a really good job. I think Titus shows some things at times, and I think Trey has an understanding, and then we're still bringing along some young guys, with the concepts and just understanding leverage.
Yeah, I spoke with X a couple days ago, and he said one of his goals was to have 500 yards receiving this
yeah.
Is that something that is realistic? And how do you kind of view him as a receiving weapon?
I'm starting to view him as a threat. 2 weeks ago I would have said, yeah, he's a good player. He's a good football. We got to find out. I don't feel comfortable tying yards or touchdowns to his pass game, but we could most certainly get into targeting X amount of balls in a game. I would start by saying maybe 2 to 3 per game, and then you see where that goes. But my thoughts and my experience has always been when the running backs are catching it clean, those sometimes 5-yard throws end up being 15-yard gains. And so the yards and the explosive plays should come with it.
Tim, as a guy who's coached one of the historically best offensive lines in the country in Iowa, what are your thoughts on this group that you have here in Laramie and all the depth that they have coming back?
Well, it's guys like Keegan, Frank Crum. I'm looking at some of the top guys here, guys that we want to put in there from a leadership standpoint, from an enthusiasm, being able to go. Big E's really gotten better. Zoe's done a good job. And I really like Latrell. He's got a real active body. He's got a lot of energy and a lot of spirit. And I think Rudy Stouffer, comparing some practice tape from the past, in some game tape, I think he's playing his best football right now. And so we're still different than we were at Iowa from the standpoint we weren't as heavy at Iowa as we are here, or, as big. Even some areas with the height. We were much more built to run just inside and outside zone at Iowa, and those kids could really run. I think we're playing faster, and I think we're using our hands better in pass pro. I can comment on those two things from a technical aspect, and that makes me extremely happy because those were things that, quite frankly, any O-line coach wants to see guys do well, is play fast with their first two steps, get their pads on people, finish with their legs, and then use their hands in pass protection. And I'm seeing guys really fast get better with that, creating separation away from D linemen rather than carrying them on their chests. That's been good.
Tim, with Sean and Levi, whether it's film that you watch from previous years or just watching them, working with them in practice, is there anything mechanically in terms of the delivery that you saw that you said, hey, we really got to revamp this or rework this, or any bad habits maybe that you thought they had to break?
Yeah, and I would start with Levi. He's interesting because he's really aware. And watching some film, I really thought maybe he had like a cross action, sometimes would throw across his body a little bit. And as the more I work with him and the more we watch tape, it really comes down to his lead foot, and his lead shoulder just being on his target. So that's what he's working on. And then Sean's really pretty mechanically. He's quick. He's always throwing out of a good foundation. Sean's just continuing to work balance, on his follow-throughs, and obviously that leads to inaccurate balls or accurate balls. So those are the 2 points of emphasis those two guys are working on. We're really just stressing hard, playing out of a good base, and then the other thing I would say that we're emphasizing from the quarterback standpoint is not taking too much in the pocket. People make a big deal about Tom Brady and his pocket movement and his awareness. Well, he only takes what he has to take in there, so his feet are always underneath him. And that's what we're trying to really emphasize, getting those guys away from big steps because they lead to big loops in their throwing action, and they're doing a good job with it.
Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say the quarterbacks can audible now? Can they go up and audible into runs and stuff?
There'll be some stuff that's built in, and then there's going to be some stuff that's day 1, day 2, day 3, in those first installations, right, that are like no-brainers. We can't do this. You got to do that. And so that's where I think the audible stuff will come from. Nothing more than that. There'll be a little bit of freedom with some quick game stuff as we move forward.
How do you see the role of the fullback in your offense?
Yeah, Caleb Driscoll has probably been, it's practice 8, so we've seen a lot. He's one of the top guys that come to mind, like not surprises, but just he improves fast. And, the way we double rep, he's having to do some things that he normally wouldn't do for us, which has really helped his football acumen, his football knowledge, his football IQ. He can handle a lot mentally, and he's a tough kid. He's Wyoming tough. He's a Cowboy tough guy. And I think that kid's going to be able to carve out a role for us. And I see it being a part of what we do, obviously. We're going to be a team that wants to run the football, and I think if you can run the football with a fullback, that really can send a message. It can help you in the 4-minute drill too, late in games.
So, Tim, halfway through spring now, are you guys ahead of maybe where you expected to be, behind in terms of just installation and guys catching on?
Good. That's a good question. We've got most of it in. I would probably, if I was to guess, 93, 94% of it. We had a solid goal line scrimmage today, and so we got to look at some things we want to do down there. Some situational stuff, no. Some situational stuff, I'm not totally comfortable saying if we're ahead or if we're not, because we got to see some of that show up in the scrimmage Saturday. But in the run game, I think understanding the concepts and any nuances that we're bringing to the table, the guys have done a really good job with it. And in the pass game, again, we are continuing to streamline the things that we feel like we can do well. And so from that standpoint, in the streamlining of things, I think we're ahead. I'd still like to see us do some things better. We got to improve in that area still.
with Sean, he likes to not give up on anything. Are you trying to work with him a little bit on sometimes just go down?
Yeah, well, I would say prior to that, you know, it's like I don't like number one, I don't like number two. Get through it quick, get to your check down. You know, we're talking a lot about being a CEO of the offense. Being a good businessman means you find a way to take a profit every day. And we're talking about that in the run game, and we're talking about that in the pass game, is we just got to find profits on those early down and distances, first and second down. Yeah, so we do not want to get hit on first and second down for sure. And we want to limit the times we're getting hit on third down, no question. But we're working extremely hard with situations where we don't like it, get checked down. We don't like it, we get through 1 and 2 faster so I can play 3 to my check down. Those types of things. We're drilling that extremely hard. And we keep talking about situational football and knowing when the journey's over. You know, like I get an 8-yard run, I don't have to cut back against the mic. 8-yard play's pretty good. You know, we got to know when the journey's over and be smart and stay healthy is a big part of it.
So Tim, is Saturday you guys' first scrimmage this spring?
Yeah, and we've had some spot stuff, you know, 5 or 10 minutes here or there where we've tried to get the 2s and 3s to be live just to make sure those young quarterbacks are getting brought along well. And the running backs and receivers have been tackled maybe 3 or 4 periods of, you know, 5 minutes each total so far. Coach has done a really good job providing some, you know, third down situations that the defense has been allowed to, you know, get after us and you know, apply some pressure and things like that. And then we've done some 2nd and 6 stuff, play third down, you know, scrimmage type things, but in short windows. So this weekend will be our first opportunity.
Are you guys good?
Hey Tim, just being back working with the quarterbacks again, have you enjoyed that?
Yeah, I have. You know, like you kind of forget how much the quarterback's tied into everything. You know, when you're coaching the O-line, you know, maybe you glance at a throw or you glance at a protection mishap or something like that, you know, with directing the O-line the right way. So that's been really fun to be back, you know, part of the whole offense and part of trying to get those guys to see the game. The part that you always enjoy the most, I think, when you're coordinating and or coaching a position like safeties or quarterbacks or linebackers is you're constantly talking football 101. You know what I mean? Like the basics and trying to get them to understand, well, a tight 5 versus a loose 5, what does that mean, especially with an edge pressure look? You know, those kind of things are things that we're really emphasizing, but it's been good, yes.